All right, thank you so much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin the panel discussion for this seminar, Economics of Ceylon Tea, and I would like to invite the dignitaries to take their seats on stage. I invite the speakers today, Mr. Dhananath Fernando. Shall we have a good round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Bingumal Tevratantri, Mr. Duminda Hulangamua, and I would also like to invite the chairman of Colombo Brokers Association, Mr. Anil Cook, and the chief economic Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Shiran Fernando. And to conduct and moderate this panel discussion, I would like to take the pleasure of inviting consultant Finlay's Colombo Limited, Mr. Ramesh Moraes. Ladies and gentlemen, over to you, Ramesh.
Yeah, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have about half an hour left with us this evening. We have been listening to three very interesting presentations. To me personally, well, I was surprised to learn things I thought I knew, but I was picking up all the while things I did not know. So before taking much of my time and my questions from my mind, well, I would like to open the panel discussion to you, ladies and gentlemen. Well, anyone from the audience could slip your hand up and signal to me that you have a question. But if you need to direct it to a particular speaker or a panelist, you have the freedom to do so. But please keep your question short as possible, because we would love to have many people asking questions so that we could give an opportunity for all to have their questions clarified. Let me keep my comments short, and over to you. Yes, your hands, please. Anyone from the audience first? Well, I've been in many panels, and this is a general trend in Sri Lanka. We take a little time and someone has to start up. Yes, Sanjay, could we have the mic given over here, please?
Thanks. This is a question to Bingu. We as exporters, we don't double down in the exchange rate. But maybe as time went on, maybe especially last couple of weeks, the exchange has been dropping drastically. And unfortunately, we as exporters need to basically do the pricing. And when the exchange costs to drop, we take a view, and obviously we, since it has been sliding so much, maybe we have been taking a view because it's going to be a loss for us, So we have gone below even the 300 mark to do our pricing, because when we get the money, we don't know whether it will be at 275. So we were just wondering whether there could be a mechanism where the central bank could come and give a preferential exchange rate to an export-oriented economy in order to make sure that we propel exports, whilst maybe, because that is going to trickle down to the producer as well. What are your comments on that, Bingu?
That's exactly what they will not do. We had this, remember, when we kept the currency at 200, we gave 5 rupees, 10 rupees for the remittances. We have tried these things. It doesn't work. You can do moral suasion. I mean, there are models that works. You keep the rate on a float, and then you put pressure on the system and say buy and sell. And if central bank has a clout, they can buy and sell. Through policy advocacy, you can tell central bank, don't let the currency go below 300. They can intervene up to a certain level. In the past, they did a lot of those things, but now also up to a certain level, they can intervene. But special exchange rates will not work, and in IMF program, we cannot do that. That's very simple answer is that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is a serious problem to the tea trade, because almost all the exporters work on terms, either 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, or 120 or 180. And the reality is that by the time a ship Well, goes to Russia, it takes about 20 odd days or 30 odd days. By the time they clear it and market it and get the money from the marketplace back into their kitty, it's another 30 to 40 days. By the time they get the money back into the country, it's another 60 days. So they need about 90 days to get the money collected from the market. So by the time they are able to get an export price to their buyer, they need to predict about 120 days ahead. So pricing is all over right now. So as you quite rightly said, we need to ride this period of time. There is no
Sadly,
shortcut.
120 is a very long time in today's context, sadly. It's changing so fast, you can't predict actually if you ask us. Even we said rupee will appreciate, but we thought 350 average and 325 to finish. Now see we are 300. So there are few things that you can do. You can look at rupee positive, incidents that can happen, and rupee negative incidents that can happen in the next 3 months. That's a way of looking at the market. So a couple of things to monitor. World Bank and ADB, they are giving us a lot of fiscal stimulus. So they are supposed to give us close to $1 billion this year, and that will straight away go into Samurdhi. So that is for budgetary support. So that money will also come. And the bond market is also active. So you have to look at all of that. So any kind of depreciation before September, October is very unrealistic. If we can manage this around 300, well and good. It will be a huge win.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I think we need to give him a big clap. At least we got something privately said. Thank you very much. Yes, over to you, please.
Yeah, I have one question. Actually, this is about privatization of state-owned institutions, right? It was mentioned by some of the speakers also, and it's under one of the IMF reforms. So even the Sri Lanka Tea Board that I represent is also state-owned enterprise. But my question is, right, what is the line that we have drawn, right? For example, can you privatize the policy making and the regulatory aspect of one institution? Or I will give another state-owned enterprise, for example, the State Timber Corporation, right? Not only making and selling furniture, they have another manifesto, like for example, planting some endemic trees in Sri Lanka and spreading it. So those things, how can you privatize? And where is the line? Have we drawn a line, or is it still under discussion?
Yeah, Danushka, may I take the liberty by saying it's a very important question, but to this forum, may I take the freedom, shall we base it on tea? Well, Danushka, and then, we'll have a quick answer to that.
Sure all of us will have many answers for this.
Yeah, there will be a variety of answers to your question, which is very valid. But
So I think your question is valid, but this audience doesn't consist of policymakers. I think we only comment on policy. So to answer a question, you need a policymaker to come and say, yes, T-board is out or cooperation is out, in my view. So if you don't mind, yeah.
Now, one thing I would like to add is government should not regulate an industry and also be in the industry and do business with the private sector. That government should not do, other than for few industries. Now, banking and all that, you need at least one state bank. Again, there are examples like Australia, there is no state bank, right? There are examples like that. You can do one or two, but here you see in every sector, including hotels, government is in business and also government is also regulated. So that's very unhealthy for the private sector.
Thank you. Yes, any other question from the audience? Shiran, do you have anything to comment, please?
Sure. No, I think just on the rupee factor, Sanjay, I think one thing that drives more than the fundamentals is sentiment. So maybe 6 months back, sentiment was really bad. Now it's pretty good. But I think the panel is optimistic that we'll get, for example, the second tranche by September. Say that gets delayed because we're already missing a lot of the targets. If you look at the government KPIs, we were supposed to announce the DDO by end April. A lot of, I think the asset quality review should have been done by now. So we've missed a lot of the KPI targets. So maybe by September, we won't get the second tranche as well. So if that happens, then sentiment changes again. And that goes into a depreciation. So I think you need to watch the turn. And then the banks will change their view and it'll go the other way. And it'll go to 340, 350. So this is such a small market, small volumes drive the currency. So I would look for that turn probably June, July, if we don't pass the central bank bill, if we don't do some of the other reforms under the KPIs that we need to meet by June. If that happens, definitely September is out, market will get jittery. I think we're focusing a lot on the DDR, but we're not focusing a lot on the foreigners, the bilaterals. China has been a very difficult restructuring partner in all these other countries as well. So I think that factor has suddenly left the room and we're talking about DDR a lot. And Zambia is struggling 3 years on, so it might happen to us also. So we just need to watch out for that risk, I think.
Yes, Anil, anything to add on?
Yeah, I wonder what blood pressure medicine costs today. I can see some of the producers' faces fall, and the brokers, even as you said, there's 3 months of price decline coming. It's an unfortunate bringing together of forces of high supply. We've been waiting 2 years to get our production up. We're just about getting it into the market. We heard the world market is under stress. And if we have 3 more months of this continual price decline, it's going to be more than a bumpy ride for the tea industry. It doesn't have the depth and the strength to withstand that kind of price correction, sir.
Sure.
Hello. One more question to Bingu. Sorry. You said that there is going to be a problem. There could be a recession in the US. Right now, I think we are looking at the demand, the supply and demand for dollars, right? In the event internationally, if the dollar gets weakened, what would be the position here? Will it go below the 300 mark?
No. I mean, see, the dollar weakening is a bit of a long-term thing that to try to weaken the dollar is a long-term thing that the other BRIC economies are driving. So that will take its own time. Still, the US economy is contributing 25% of the global GDP, same as 1990s. A lot of people think US has gone down, they're not gone down. So US policymakers will prefer a weaker dollar to revive the economy. That's where it is right now. So our situation is very different. Our situation, we are now increasing reserves and managing BOP without settling debts.
Exactly.
So we have money. That's a very unique situation.
Yeah, just a quick question from my side over to you. We are all talking about the dollars. Well, Sri Lanka is also looking for new markets, and we find China has become a major market for Sri Lanka. Well, it's falling into the first 10 markets. Well, do you think trading in the Chinese currencies is the right way to go?
I think the diversification on the currency combination is good. I think we have already opened for the Indian Indian currency. So I think it's a good move. But I think in terms of if we really want to trade, improve the trade, rather than moving on that currency direction, I'm sure all of you are aware of the regulatory barriers on the imports and exports. I think that should be the starting point, because at the moment the custom processes and the regulatory barriers are so massive, and that's what hindering the growth. And if you look at the economies which is growing quite faster, Vietnam, South Korea, they have got into main free trade agreements, but over the last few decades, we have been very slow on joining these, connecting to the global markets. And also I think the current trend is rather than we all took proud in like made in Sri Lanka or made in India or with that in word, but I think now it's going the word with, because the supply chains are so diverse that we are trying to combine, because none of the products are manufactured within that entire country. I'm sure even for tea, like the packaging material, some of the stuff we have to import. So that's why the imports and exports are the two sides of the same coin. So how to connect with that global supply chain is the most important thing, and how are we going to contribute to that is going to improve the bigger trade. But of course, as a currency, I think as long as we open that option, diversification is good. Of course, keeping the geopolitical tensions manageable.
Well, the reality of this trade is that Sri Lanka exports almost 60 or 65%, my figure can be debated, to the most vulnerable countries in the world. Iraq, Iran, Libya, well, Turkey. Well, if you really name those, 5 countries, Russia, they buy almost 60% of our, produce. And all those countries are, well, as you quite rightly said, are not the best for the banking sector. They are not the healthiest countries. So we've got to keep in mind that we are trading with countries that are in turbulent times. So we need to have this challenge. And as Anil Cook said, we as a trade has to keep this in mind. Lionel, this is a word for you and for our people. I mean, I call them our people because we are in the same fraternity. The smallholders who are the most important and the vibrant part of the tea community will have to bear in mind, when the rupee strengthens, the tea prices at the auctions will come down. But your costs are going to be up. You're going to be facing a very tough time till probably October or November, till the rupee again depreciates in value and goes up to 320 or 330. Till that time, that margin is going to erode, and the real brunt of it will be faced by the smallholder. So that will have to be kept in mind. Well, anyone to add to that, or you agree or disagree with me, please share. Because the exporter will pass that price at the auctions. Because you're not going to pay a higher price, you will work your prices in rupees and come to the auction with an affordable price. The cost will be seen at the auction price, and the smallholder will be remunerated according to that price. So the smallholder, who is a vital part of our industry, will have to take that for the next 3 to 4 months. And I think this is an open thing that I'm sharing with the smallholder, that we will all have to bear with each other. Better to know it upfront. Yes, Lionel, over to you for the question. Yes.
We have to get a reduction on our inputs like electricity and fuel immediately, because it's rapidly, the rupee is appreciating, but we are not getting the benefit of only the market price. We are getting hit on that.
It's not a tax question. But, no, I mean, I have been in the chamber for the last 20 years as a committee member. And every month we have a presentation for a different industry, and tea is a presentation. And last 20 years I have heard these problems. And you all have survived as an industry. And done pretty well, in my view. So I don't think anything is going to change much from the current crisis. Next year will be better for you. And I mean, either wage problem or fuel issue or something or other you all face, right, Ganesh? I mean, every month. But don't worry, you will survive. And resilience will be there, don't worry.
Please, Anil, go ahead.
May I address him, because this morning's papers did refer to a suggestion that the electricity prices are grossly overstated on the basis of unknown or exaggerated cost. So in fact, is it a reality that there is room for some sort of correction in that, if I'm using the words right?
I don't know. That is claimed by one party, and the PUSL is claiming that. But when we the minister, he had a different view. So, so I don't know how accurate that claim is. So we have to wait and see.
No, I think it's...
Shiran, anything to add on?
Yeah, no, I think that's the cost factor who's determining the pricing, but it's also, I think they're trying to get the CEB to pay off its debt as well, because there's debt that the CEB owes the CPC, then the CPC owns the state bank, so it's quite circular. So it's not just the cost of producing the electricity, but all these other interest costs also that are coming in. But here, just to your point on SOE reform, that's why SOE reform is very key. Because we can't run CEB the way we've been running, we can't run CPC the way we've been running. And I think, to your point, it's the key strategic SOEs which are commercially bleeding the economy. I think that's what's going to get restructured. So if SLTB is not commercially viable, maybe it might come into that threshold. But they're looking at the main 6, 7 ones that are bleeding, and these this is really to stem this circular flow, which is at the end of the day hitting the banks, because the state banks are happy to keep lending at higher rates to these SOEs and not lend that back to the private sector. So that's a key part. So the pricing formula will help. So maybe July you might see not maybe an increase, maybe it might be a small reduction. But what's important is for us to put the pressure for renewable energy integration, which should then bring the prices down sustainably. Because what we forget is we've been living on, from 2013 to 2022, there's been no upward price increase. It was in 2014, just before the presidential election, we took a 25% price drop. And from 2014 to 2022 August, we've been living on a low price where everything has gone up. So I think to Dhananath's point, we've been living in a dream. Now we've woken up with all these shocks. So that's what happened in one go.
Yeah, may I have, well, probably we can entertain one more question before we sum up. We have a few items to be carried out before we conclude this evening. Yes,
Yeah.
one more question over there.
My question for Dhananath. You mentioned a DDR, on the DDR haircut driven by inflation on the first point of it. So,
Sorry, where is the question coming from? I am unable to.
yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Right, good evening. Sorry.
I'm representing the tea manufacture sector.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So in that way, basically we have printed money and utilized for an inefficient manner, which we did not get the required return, and ultimately the inflation are driven. Has that been used as a valid excuse in any country which faced a similar situation, and have they got through, or is it just a story central bank invented in the interim time just to keep the banks calm and stop the panic?
Yes, I didn't mean it to be an excuse. My point, actually the main point that I was trying to drive was that since we are so much worried about the domestic debt restructuring, we could have been cautioned when we were following that policy that it could have come to that, because we were restructuring our entire asset base by devaluing our money. So it has automatically, whether we like it or not, by devaluing the money, it has been already restructured. We could have alerted that when it was happening, because I think everyone also pretty much enjoyed those times when the interest rates were quite low, when it was kept artificially. We really didn't foresee that this was coming. I'm not sure whether other countries actually has given it as an excuse, or like, to bring it as a point. This inflation is not to move ahead with because of not to move in that domestic debt restructuring move. But I very clearly remember even before the debt restructuring, this conversation came in one of the roundtable discussions, and actually we asked whether what do you prefer, to somewhat restructure it with inflation, or whether are we really opening up for a haircut or a coupon clipping on the domestic debt restructuring. I think at that point no one really understood the gravity of it, that it is coming to this level. Very briefly, I will quickly touch on the electricity one. I do not actually foresee a electricity reduction, because I think the quarterly accounts have been released, 35 billion loss for the first quarter of CEB. So again, just to compare it, for the Samurdhi, the main allocation was nearly about 50 billion. So for a quarter, CEB has lost about 35 billion for a quarter. So after a tariff revision to an extent. So very unlikely, I do not see, because with that sort of loss, which was, I think, on the today's some of the.
So Lionel, you are not going to get a rebate. Yes, over there were.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm representing the tea manufacturing sector. Actually, I'm sorry if my question is not suitable for this forum, this panel. I'm speaking from the side of a manufacturer, because we are facing a huge problem when we take in the green leaf, because there is a huge competition over the tea factories to get the green leaf from the smallholders to the factories. So can't we have some policy decisions in the country to a manufacturer should pay the actual rate what is he should be able to pay, because almost all the factories, they are paying some extra rates where they can't afford. But if they don't pay the average rate in the area, they will not be able to get any green leaf from this area. So what we lose there is, we are focusing on the tea quality. As tea, stakeholders of tea, what we should do is, everyone has to focus on good quality tea to manufacture better quality tea. So when you focus to get more green leaf, most of the people are doing some unorthodox things, and they are trying to pay some extra money and get the leaf. They are not concentrating on the green leaf quality or the end product quality. Because if you don't pay extra rate and if you don't get the green leaf to the factory, it's very difficult to operate the factory. So can't we have some politicians on that?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your question is clear, and may I ask Anil to please...
Having listened to these learned gentlemen, the truth of the matter is that there is going to be no sharp correction in the market. You have to go back to responding to the signals the market is sending you. And I can tell you this, the way cost of interest and everything else is going up, you will not be able to keep borrowing and paying more than you are earning. And this we are seeing, I think my colleagues in the CBA will agree with me, this is going to come to an abrupt stop very soon. Very soon. I'm talking about Monday morning, as urgent as that, because your trading loss, you're not accepting that reality, or you don't know what the commercial reality of your business is. So what each person is looking to his neighbor and saying he should stop paying a premium. It has gone up from 80 rupees per kilogram of green leaf to 240 to 250 rupees. It was being paid last week even after the market corrected 300 rupees. This is going to stop. In 2008, there was a major crash. Wake up to the reality. Tomorrow has already come yesterday. You will see the brakes being applied. You cannot do this by legislation. It is not the tea commissioner's business to teach you common sense.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, just on the interest of time, just one more question, because there are one or two more items that we need to conclude. Just one more question. Your question, please.
So, given the current dollar-rupee pricing,
yes,
as an exporter, I believe forwards is a good option. However, the timeline that we should look forward to, I mean, hitting forwards, what do you all believe? I would like 2-3 views here, because I know none will be firm. It all depends on the decision that tomorrow morning someone wakes up and takes, you know. So I would like to hear 2-3 views. What's the timeline as an exporter, if you're doing forwards, that you should look at? Because let's say now today morning, the exchange rate was at 305, and a forward, some bank will give 10 cents, some bank will give 5 cents. That differs. But all in all, that protects your expenses, and you can get a better price than you get now. So the timeline is the question.
So generally, commonly in the industry, we see in 3 months at this point. You will not see a bank doing more than 6 months anyway. So 3 months is a safe bet. 3 months from now, June, July, August, you'll have a lot of clarity. Every month you have to track it, sadly. Yeah. 3 months
I think
is a
it's
good
an
bet.
everyday thing currently.
Yeah, correct. Correct. That's the price.
Plus, remember, while you keep tracking, all the other exporters are also tracking.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's a tough game. Right, ladies and gentlemen,
one more thing,
all good things.
Ramesh, yes.
Sorry.
On your
one more question or what?
Yes, answer.
Right, okay, one more question.
That's not a question.
Yes, please.
On behalf of the trade,
yes.
On behalf of the industry, can I answer the previous question?
Yes, Anselm,
my
go
way.
ahead. Go ahead.
Excuse me, learned gentlemen of the panel, this is nothing to do with you. It is to do with a recurrent problem in our industry.
Yes.
Due to political reasons, we have 250 tea factories, more than what we need. The land produces green leaf only for about 500 factories. We are 700 plus. If we close down the non-productive 250 factories, we will never have this green leaf issue. Everybody is reluctant, frightened to face that. Then the other issue is, in this country, most industries depend on subsidies. It is time we forgot about subsidies and got on with our business, because subsidies can never be over. It's a recurring problem. If you continue to give subsidies, you will have to continue that forever. And we will never come out of this. You are not making a realistic profit by getting a subsidy. I know most of you will be angry with me for saying that, but this is reality. So get rid of all those unwanted factories. There are people who have never been in the tea trade trying to run tea factories because at one time it was profitable. So they have come out of various other industries because they had money and put up factories. And when factories were not allowed, Tea Board had to give permission because there was political pressure. That is the root cause of this problem. Decisions taken by non-professionals have ruined these industries, like the fertilizer ban, like the glyphosate ban. It's the same problem. So we can never come out of this if we continue like this. So, gentlemen, please think outside this box. Think real. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. Is Anil? Yes.
Yeah, if I might share, it's not an unreal proposition.
Okay.
Because when the currency was affordable, I had the privilege of staying in a farm in Italy that had been paid not to farm. So the concept of, this is happening in many countries in the world. It's a complex business model, but that is the quickest way of matching green leaf supply to available factory of capacity of factories. It is being done in other countries. You're right, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All good things must come to an end. And may I ask you to please be at your seat for just a few moments. By 5:05 you will be done, and we will then break out for a time of refreshments. But before that, let me once again thank you for those wonderful questions, thought-provoking questions, and a group of panelists who gave you those answers. The kind of lessons learned this evening was tremendous. First of all, exporters, please keep in mind the lessons that our colleagues taught us today. Keep your stock levels low. Do not carry stocks. Well, at a time when the rates are fluctuating at 345 rupees to $1, you buy tea, the rates are down to 280, 290 or 300. You're carrying stocks that are very expensive. When you divide it at 290 or 300 rupees a dollar, your dollar price is going to be very expensive. So the first hint is keep your stocks at the lowest possible level. We were given a long-term view. Don't look at Sri Lanka tea by packing in Ceylon alone, Sri Lanka alone. Look at a wider industry. Make it a global industry. While our industry needs to be much more than the type of $1.5 billion that we are talking about, we need to look at it. Look at riding this difficult time with all the scary fears that we are going to face. Well, as Mr. Hulangamu said, we have survived the most toughest 20 years. We have a lot of lessons that we can learn, but I can say Camellia sinensis is our first love, it will be our second love, and it will be our third love. We will survive. Let's give the tea trade a big hand. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and may I hand it over to the podium once again.